Hello my friends and welcome. I'm monitoring the situation on the front lines for already a very long time, but for the last couple of weeks I see how Russia changes the focus from unachievable goal for them, it looks like in Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, towards Konstantinivka. So now they increase their attack attempts towards this settlement rather than before they had so many useless attack attempts to really advance behind the railway in Pokrovsk and create some sort of the bridgehead. Yes, Ukraine withdrew the forces mostly from Mirnograd, but still Russia cannot use its actual advantage over Ukraine with lots of the forces, troops compared to Ukrainian army and other vehicles. So they try now to go to Konstantinivka. They thought that maybe this direction is better, has a good perspective, but even on the way, Russian convoys were attacked, some of the all-terrain vehicles and armored vehicles. Yeah, here we have the video of the Russian tanks, BMPs and everything of that being kaputted. It was the useless Russian attack attempt, but what is interesting that the place was, first of all, geolocated, and it also shows how Ukraine uses its forces and defense lines. The Ukrainian defense is happening exactly as I thought before, using those defense lines. The idea for Ukraine is not to stop the Russian army completely, like it's impossible after all to do. The idea is to create the obstacle and to concentrate all of the resources, including surveillance also, to spot Russians and to kaput them in those bottlenecks. As you see, yeah, several of the Russian vehicles were stopped. As you can see, this is the only way how they might advance, because those are the Dragon T's, so-called anti-tank barricades or their anti-BMP barricades as well. Infantry can go through, but sometimes Ukraine also uses barbed wire or razor wire. Well, the Russian convoy is usually being spotted well before, but Russians are just basically forced to go to this bottleneck because there is no other way of how they potentially may propel without using engineering equipment. I mean, to remove those Dragon T's somewhere here or in different spot, because all of the engineering vehicles, they have light armor and they have to stay at the same place for a very long time. And with this kill zone, drone zone expanded, for Russia it's simply not possible. So they're going in this trap and they're being kaputted. And doesn't matter how many of the layers of those hunger defenses they put on their vehicles. After all, Ukraine has so many drones that it would be enough after all to stop those Russian attacks. So here we have a textbook scenario of how Ukraine defends nowadays itself. And here we have just a tiny defense line, but Ukraine already has built multiple of the really robust lines with anti-tank trenches, with the wires, with those cones once again. So for Russia it's impossible, really, they cannot penetrate those lines. And if they can, in those bottlenecks, it basically brings Russia severe, absolutely unimaginable losses. That's the strategy for Ukraine, to exhaust Russian army, and Ukraine is very, very successful using it on the front lines, and that's why Russia, even in Konstantinivka, they cannot reach their success. They plan to attack the city. I guess it was 3 months ago. Then there was the briefing of Putin and the Russian generals. Then one of the Russian generals said, "Oh, we're controlling the most part of Konstantinivka." But no, it was hoax. It is fake. Russia cannot reach Konstantinivka. And even those red territories we see on the map, they're no longer under the Russian control if they're within 20 kilometers of the kill zone. Any sort of the Russian movement is well spotted, and the defense of Ukraine is so organized that Russia is unable to attack without losses. Sometimes just small infiltration attempts. Yes, they could be successful, but not here. Absolutely. And I think that strategy of the Russian generals, then they still use those convoys or several of the vehicles in attacks. It is just stupid. It is useless, and they just grind down their own army. But it's good that they continue to waste their resources just like that. Overall, for Ukraine, it is great. Russians, please continue. You have, let's say, competent commanders in the east. Ukraine likes those commanders, especially the last commander who was appointed. Russian Z community just hates him, and he decided to re-emerge massive strikes on Ukrainian positions, straightforward And yeah, we see where it goes. And you know, Russians are still using motorcycle attacks. Like, for example, this Russian, it's not an AI video, guys. It's the real freaking video. And just imagine how many of the FPV drones you need to disable this gentleman. It's 100% not an AI video. Definitely, this is the real guy. Even vapor goes from his breath. And also, look at this chain. AI would never recreate it. It moves, then he puts the throttle on, yeah, moves the throttle, also chain moves just a little, it's a normal thing from the vibrations of the engine. So this is the Russian soldier, some sort of the defense. Well, this body positive guy also put some extra clothes, so it looks very comical here on this video. And it's not the first time Russian around soldiers are being spotted on the front lines. And I see more and more of the mercenaries joining the Russian army, and they're being deployed to the most hot directions, like for example in Pokrovsk. And I'm sure that those mercenaries for the first time experienced the harsh conditions of the Eastern European winter. For the last few days, temperature dropped down significantly, but what is interesting about this video are the comments of this Russian cameraman, who is probably an instructor or maybe he's some sort of the fixer. Well, he takes the part, let's say, in preparation of those Russian soldiers. Let's listen to what he say. I know Russian, so I can translate it for you. And immediately he say, oh, how many of those disposals are out there? And he's laughing. And they're even singing. Happy, you see? No worries, they will be used in a mid-wave attack. Zaliv, it means just a straightforward infantry advancement without any sort of the vehicles. Zaliv to zero positions, yeah, to the actual front line. And they will sing different songs, he says. So this Russian, he's looking at those soldiers and he is laughing about them. He's pretty much sarcastic. He understands what is happening on the front lines, but it seems like those guys who signed the contract with the Russian army, they do not understand. And they're singing, they're happy. For them, it's like some sort of the camp, winter camp. But no, the reality is completely different, and probably it's definitely their last video. But this attitude, you know, from the Russian soldiers, they understand even what might happen to them or what is happening to the Russian army. There are absolutely no doubts in the destiny of those usual mid-wave attacks for Russians themselves. But for those mercenaries, they also do not have doubts because they are unaware of what awaits them up front. They're just singing songs, you know, they came there for money, yay, it's like a playground. Like Trump says, it's the fight in kindergarten. Sometimes you need to let them to fight, the kids to fight, yeah? So those kids, they're not the kids, but it seems like they don't have the adult brain if they definitely signed the contract with the Russian army. Again, no one is pushing them for this. I mean, actively, physically pushing. Even for Russian citizens, nobody is really forcing them, beating them hard to sign the contract. No, it's their will. Yeah, sometimes under the mental pressure, Russian soldiers, for example, conscripts, they sign the contracts with Russian army. But here, why would they go thousands of kilometers, thousands of miles away from their home countries to join Russia? Why? And mostly mercenaries are coming from African and Asian countries. Not all of them, of course, but where the economic conditions are not okay, they are willing to just earn some money, as well as Russians, by the way. They live in poverty, and it's like a golden ticket for them to sign the contract with the Russian army, as they think. They watch the Russian propaganda videos, channels, and they think that they are winning. Also, the situation with the peace negotiations. Then Donald Trump stated that he is willing to finish this war in 24 hours. Actually brought many of the Russian men to the military conscription centers. They thought that they would get money and that's it. The war will be over in a week or so maximum. But no, the war still continues, and there is no vivid end for it to end somehow, someday in the nearby future. Yeah, sorry guys, I had to apply some of that censorship. There is the drone video here with one of those mercenaries who was captured by Ukrainian drone. I mean, captured, yeah? You understood what happened there. Yeah, look, brothers, here we have our colleagues from Cameroon, I think. Yeah, Cameroon with us, everyone with us. The call sign, your call sign is Carlson. Oh my god. Yeah, we already saw the guy with the TM62 anti-tank mine. Maybe he's also from Cameroon, I'm not sure, but he was definitely looking like a Carlson with that mine. Just install propeller and send him to the Russian positions. Ugh, crazy. This attitude towards mercenaries, and it's terrible. I mean, in the Russian army, it's crazy. And this guy is also temporary out there. Call sign Carlson. Maybe they named him after Tucker Carlson. Maybe. And there was the infantry attack recently in Pokrov's direction. Maybe those are those mercenaries walking dead. They don't know yet that they're dead, but they're dead. It's like quantum superposition or Schrodinger's cat. Yeah, cat is alive or not alive? Well, it's not alive actually, but this cat doesn't know about it. Yeah, those theories I just want to find out even philosophical explanation for the Russians to go and just kaput, flatline, not even close to Ukrainian positions in most of the cases. Yeah, sometimes we need to think about higher materia to understand those species who do not think about it at all. Yeah, so they're alive and they're dead at the same time. How could it be? That's the pure philosophy. Yeah, kaboom, and that's it. Scenario is the same, and just those pixels on the screen may show that there was someone. Those Russian soldiers, mercenaries, but for the future, they do not exist any longer, and they chose it themselves. And something is burning. Usual thing for Russians. Oh, this is Solntsepok. Okay, this is TOS-1A. Solntsepok that was hit by Ukrainian defenders. One more evidence. It's nice. Not far away from the Pokrov's direction, by the way. Behind the front lines, supply thing, but Ukraine operates there with drones. Fantastic job. Alright, as for the rest of the front lines, I don't see the huge advancement of the Russian army. Also, they're pretty much calm in Zaporizhia direction. No any news coming from Gulay Pole. Yes, it's in a red zone, but partially it's gray. Like Deep State gives us the territory in the gray area. Here Michael sent us 3 pictures it in red, but we understand that the kill zone is wider. It's over here, and the Russians, they have the losses behind the front lines. So it's really hard to tell what is exactly happening at the front lines, because the line itself is fluctuating, it's volatile, but Ukraine continues to defend itself, and if there is somewhere success of the Russian army, it is very, very limited. Like, for example, in Konstantinovka, they tried to go, but they fell. It happens elsewhere every day, and we see how in 2026, 2025 even, it is definitely way harder for Russia to gain new territories. So what they want to occupy all of this area, cities, towns, Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Drushkivka, Konstantinovka, they don't have the guts for it. They don't have enough resources, because the modern day war requires potentially hundreds of the thousands of the forces concentrated at the same direction, and only with the heaviest losses possible, Russians might propel forward and basically occupy ruined cities. What they take is just the flat ground, just ruined buildings and so on. Nothing is possible to build without absolutely billions of investments, and the Russian economy will not be able to build or rebuild those regions. So this war is not about Donbass, it's about Russian influence in Europe, restoration of the Soviet or Russian Empire might. That's all about Russia. It's not about Donbass. Here is the mistake of Donald Trump and those negotiators from American side to believe to Russia that it's all about Donbass. For Russia it was about Crimea, about southern Ukraine, but now it's about Donbass. Yeah, of course. Now to the other news, kind of the big news. In Caspian Sea, Ukraine hit several of the Russian platforms. Oil platforms, they belong to the sanctioned company Lukoil. The attack was conducted during the night time, and what I see, again, those FP2 drones, if they fly at a very high speed, still there is some sort of the Dutch roll. Left and right and a little bit up and down. It's the classical behavior of the unstable airframe at the very high speed. It might happen even to the usual aircraft, but maybe the design of the drones could be a little bit different. Maybe they need to play with the wing more. I'm not sure, but if they definitely dive down, it's hard to aim something. Like the platform is hit over here, yeah, with the previous drone, but overall it's hard to aim something. But if they fly at the lower speed, like for example here, it is pretty much stable. That's what I mentioned from all of those videos published in the internet. The lower speed means more precision. So even in the Caspian Sea, Russian oil is under kinetic sanctions. It's very far away from Ukraine. Not just Trump is capable to sanction Lukoil and Rosneft, but Ukraine does it, I would say, effectively. For sure, there were some of the disturbances in operation. It is hard to say what exactly was damaged, but just imagine the Russian personnel working there and their drones flying, hitting them all around. Yeah, it's the hell on earth could be, and you have no way to go. You're in the middle of the sea, no escape. Okay, this is the report from CNN. They went to check out the remains of a missile, Oreshnik missile, and this expert with the head of expert really shows the spare parts of missile, and I was surprised definitely to see the old gyroscope. This is very huge. Yuri Gagarin flew with one of these. Definitely, this is, look at the size of this gyro. It's old. The new gyros, they're not big as that. They're laser gyros, small ones, really small. There are many of them installed on commercial airplanes, not commercial airplanes elsewhere. Also on modern type of missiles. But Russia, for Oreshnik, it uses a gyro that is very heavy. Maybe it's even bigger than the warhead, the part of the warhead itself. This is crazy. And those micro schemes, they're old. Look at them. It's macro schemes. Oh my god. They're damn huge. Those are very ancient technologies, really, from maybe 70s or 80s maximum. It doesn't look new at all. This guy says that everything Russian, so made in Russia. Yes, it is made in Russia. That is why it is ancient. It is not a new missile. I understand that the United States Army, they also use old technologies. Yes, Jake Bro also stated that. But there is the potential for modernization. The United States, they do have those technologies and they modernize their weaponry. But the Russian Federation states that missile Oreshnik is something outstanding. No analogs elsewhere, it's the brand missile, brand new, but it's just a modification of an old missile, and with those spare parts shown to us, it is understandable that it is the old crap. Yes, capable crap, because still it flies by 13,000 kilometers an hour, very high speed, but in general those are the old technologies. But it's not what Russian propaganda says, just for you to understand. And using this expensive, still expensive missile to hit Ukrainian infrastructure, can Russia produce those old micro schemes or not any longer? Maybe they use the spare parts made in the Soviet Union for those missiles. And it explains why they strike with Oreshnik once a year or even more. To the other news, we have them here. Trump waits potential military intervention in Iran. The protests there are still ongoing. It is really hard to get some of the information from Iran because they shut down all of the internet. Iranian military even started to use the military-grade equipment, electronic warfare, to cancel the signal for Star Starlink, and probably they obtained this technology from Russia. I'm almost sure about it. And before Trump many times said that they might intervene if Iran starts to unalive own people. And sadly, it is happening already. It's been confirmed that 500 people around for this hour. And those are the initial figures were unalived, and the death toll could be up to 2,000 people. Just imagine this scale of revolution. And people, even under those threats, are going and protesting on the streets openly. Some of them even take arms to fight against militia. I mean, Iranian police of the Islamic Revolution Corps start to use weapons against their own citizens. It's happening not for the first time, but where is this red line, for example, for Donald Trump to intervene? Well, it only exists in Trump's head, and it's undefined red line. Or maybe it doesn't exist at all, and he just wants to say something out loud in internet, creating those tweets. Sometimes those tweets, they're out of reality completely. But we'll see. The chance for Iranian people to finally dismantle their regime is quite high. Yeah, we'll see in the coming weeks probably, if they're successful. But it has not been like that since 1999, of course. The unrests are definitely strong. But in Russia, with all of those losses on the front line, with stagflation of economy, Russians are still calm. They're pretty much okay, it seems like, with what is happening. There are no any riots, and there is not even comparable risk for Russians if they go on the streets. No one will execute them, yeah, but in Iran they can, and still people go on the streets. It's crazy. Iranian people are really strong in this resistance against the regime. Hopefully they will be successful. Meanwhile, Donald Trump threatens Cuba. Cuba lived for many years on a large amount of oil coming from Venezuela and so on. Donald Trump, I think Iran is more important, honestly, and it could be at the brink of collapse, the Iranian regime. Iran is more important for now, but Donny wants to provide his influence mostly in Western Hemisphere, from what I understood, and again he threatens Greenland. It's Donny. And why Iran is also important, for example, for Russia, because Russia started to use Iranian-made Shahid drones. They call it Giran 5, but basically it's the jet drone produced in Iran. Ukraine already shut down many of those. Russia stated that it's their produced drone, but Ukraine found out that it's been produced in Iran, and Russia received many of those. As for the standard flying wing type of the drones, Giran or Shahid, Russia is capable to produce those fully, autonomously. They have their own spare parts production, but still they take some of the components from Iran if they really need something new. This drone is way faster than the standard Shahid Giran. And the Telegraph says that Starmer could send troops to Greenland to ease Trump's security fears, but maybe, those are not about security fears, really. Trump just wants Greenland for whatever, resources, yeah, influence, resources. And I'm sure that in Washington there are the forces who are interested in dismantling NATO as the transatlantic alliance. And all of those talks about multiple of the Chinese and Russian ships just encircling Greenland, it's nothing burger. This is a pure hoax and excuse for Donald Trump to start annexation or even special military operation. As it is reported today, Donald Trump is looking even for that scenario. For Donny, it doesn't matter whether it's Maduro or allies, he doesn't care. If he wants some resources, rare earth minerals or oil, he might do it, and he will use American army as his personal one. That is absolutely not okay. If USA starts its operation against allies, it's gonna be the end of NATO. That's it. End of NATO with Greenland operation. We'll see what it might be, but judging on Trump's rhetorics, I'm sure that something may happen. Not necessarily military, but I do not exclude even that scenario because Trump says about it, and also European officials confirm this idea. And here Nordic countries reject Trump's claim of Chinese and Russian ships around Greenland, so it's basically hoax and Nothing burger, as I told you. My friends, if you have the opportunity, please support me on Patreon or on a membership of this YouTube channel. If you watch me on YouTube, the membership button join is somewhere over here. If you don't have this opportunity, no worries, just press like to the video and subscribe for the channel. By doing it, you help me to propel my content in algorithms. I am not working with sponsors, as you see, no more integration, nothing. And I'm capable to do it just because of your support. And you drive me posting videos every day. Yeah, today it's quite late post, but anyways, you'll watch this video, then you can. So please support the channel, even with your like, subscription. It really, really helps. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.